Hi, I'm Katie Ziskind. I'm the owner of Wisdom Within Counseling and Coaching. You can learn about working with me and my team by heading over to wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com. Today's video is all about LGBTQIA plus awareness, how to be affirming, and how to understand yourself. So today's video is specifically on cross-dressing. So let's first talk about what cross-dressing is. Cross-dressing is when someone who is a penis owner or identifies as male dresses up in more traditionally female clothing. So this means that if you're a man, you might go to work in your pants or in your uniform, and then when you get home from work, you find great enjoyment, euphoria, and even pleasure in dressing up in feminine clothing. So dresses, putting on fake eyelashes, wearing lipstick, even just the smell of opening a container of blush, the smell of opening a container of foundation. You really enjoy connecting with your feminine side. You also love the feeling of nylon stockings on your skin or the feeling of silky underwear or silky clothing, which is a more traditional feminine fabric. So there's this sensory experience as well when it comes to cross-dressing. You're also someone that really loves doing this, but you've always felt ashamed of doing it. Sorry, my cat is bumping the camera. You've really felt a sense of shame about who you are related to cross-dressing. Like you may have hid this side of you. You may have even had a dad that physically abused you or used corporal punishment to try to get you to stop doing this. But even as a young child, preschooler, kindergartner, or even middle school, you snuck around your house. You dressed up in your mom's nylon stockings. You loved wearing your sister's high heels. You put on your sister's bathing suits. You really enjoyed the feeling of your mom's pearls all along your neckline. And you also, now as an adult man, you're really struggling because you may be in a marriage to your wife for decades and you're struggling because she may have found out that you're cross-dressing and now want a divorce or think that you're gay. Now, not everyone who cross-dresses is gay. Sexual orientation is actually a very separate aspect of who we are. You may identify as gay, you may identify as straight, you may identify as pansexual, bisexual, demisexual. Sexual orientation is a separate aspect, and gender expression is actually what we're talking about now in this cross-dressing video. So cross-dressing is a form or an underneath the umbrella of gender expression. Now, if we look at long ago, women were not allowed to wear pants at one point. Women were also not allowed to have bathing suits that were showed any skin above the knee, right? Our society has come really far when it looks at how clothing has changed. And women at one point had to wear skirts and weren't allowed to have a credit card in their name, right? So if we look at these very rigid boxes of what it means to be a female or what it means to be a male, they're rigid, and gender expression is something that's expansive and fluid. So if you're a man who cross-dresses, first I want you to know that it's okay to cross-dress as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting someone else. It's also okay to cross-dress because it's a form of self-expression, and for many men, there are reasons behind it. It can be soothing, it can be calming. Cross-dressing can help you feel more like your authentic self. As well, when you cross-dress, for some men, there's an erotic element. So there's a healthy level of self-expression or connecting to the sexuality within, or really feeling pleasure. And that's healthy. That's normal. We all have normal, healthy, organic sexual urges. So for a lot of men, this is something that they carry a lot of shame and guilt about, especially if you were raised in a strict conservative or religious upbringing. A lot of these strict religions tell men that they're not allowed to cross-dress, they're not allowed to have these thoughts, that they're evil, that God will punish them, and that can create a lot of internalized self-hatred and shame. And when we have internal rejection and internalized shame, that leads to things like drug addiction, porn addiction, alcoholism, workaholism. We can even have things like avoidance patterns and numbing behaviors. So really what we do here at Wisdom Within Counseling and Coaching is help you become your authentic self. Because when you're integrated, you have your mind, body, and spirit, you're not hiding any parts of who you are, you naturally become a more balanced, healthy human being. Right. So another piece of cross-dressing that I want to talk about is that men will often go through what's called a binge and purge cycle because of the shame. So if you're a man who cross-dresses, you just love getting women's shoes, you love high heels, the way they look on your feet, you love wearing a bra, dresses, women's underwear. You'll gather kind of a wardrobe of clothing, and you may keep it in a box or in a bag and have kind of your items. You might get some makeup brushes, you might get different eyeshadows. Woo! And then you go through what's called a purge cycle based on shame. So maybe someone finds out you're cross-dressing, or you're afraid they're gonna ostracize you from your church or ostracize you from your family, or your parents will disown you, or your siblings will never speak to you again, and you're so afraid and there's so much shame, or you just have that internal rejection that you end up going to like a community dumpster and throwing out all of your clothing and your makeup and all of these items that you've gathered that make you feel really good. And then you don't cross-dress for a period of time. Maybe it's a few months, maybe it's a few years. And then the urge, the desire to express yourself in a more feminine way comes back, and you go to Goodwill or you go to online and you buy more feminine items that bring you great pleasure, bring you great joy, and you dress up again. You might even take selfies in the clothing. You might even, want to go into online chat rooms and talk with other people who do this to feel a sense of community. So there's often this binge and purge cycle. I want you to know that it's totally okay to cross-dress. There's nothing wrong with being a man, dressing up in women's clothing. And we often, I find here at Wisdom Within Counseling, that the men who cross-dress really need someone to affirm this, really need someone to say, hey, it's okay, it's normal, it's healthy. You can come to session dressed up. And a lot of men who cross-dress actually have a feminine name that they like to be called when they're in women's clothing, and also may use she, her pronouns when they're dressed up, and their more feminine side is being expressed, and then he, him pronouns when they're in their masculine clothing. And a lot of men who cross-dress consider themselves bi-gender or two-spirited. So this means that you identify with both genders. You identify with two genders, masculine and feminine aspects. And so maybe there's a masculine side of you that when you're in masculine clothing, you want to play golf, or you want to do a more masculine activity like wrestling, or you really like being competitive in sports, or you work in a warehouse, or you have kind of, you like to ride a Harley Davidson motorcycle or whatever. You do kind of a more traditional male activity when you're in your male, expressive side. And then when you're dressed up, maybe it's in private, or maybe you go to, a gay bar, or you go to an LGBTQIA plus affirming community space. You're dressed up in your feminine side. You're dressed up in a bra, nylon stockings, beautiful dress, sparkles, glitter, form-fitting, maybe athletic clothes like yoga pants, or, wearing a wig, wearing fake eyelashes, having makeup on, right? You're really in your feminine side, and that part of you desires to be released and expressed as well. And so you may want to use those she, her pronouns and have a feminine name that you'd like to be called, because you really want to be seen as beautiful. You want to be seen as gorgeous. You want to be seen as pretty in that side when you're expressing your feminine side. And you may have activities that you like to do, like you might like to put on fake nails. You might like to paint your nails. You might like to spend an hour or more putting on makeup and really take the time to do your foundation and do highlights and do, all these aspects of what it means to be a woman, or express yourself in that feminine way. You might also like to try on different types of shoes, like do a little fashion show where you're dressing up in different outfits, you're putting on wedges, you're putting on high heels or ballet flats, or really just embracing that feminine side. And that's healthy. That's a healthy part of who you are. So we work a lot with women, with men at Wisdom Within Counseling that have a more feminine side. So you may take part in cross-dressing. There may be shame that you need to work through. Your spouse of multiple decades may have just found your bag of clothing and wonder, are you cheating? Are you, doing this with other people? Are you unfaithful? Also, your spouse may say, hey, I want a divorce. Like, I'm only into a masculine man. Like, your spouse may have very rigid views of what it means to have a husband or what it means to be a woman or a man. And they may have a strict conservative religious upbringing, and messages and views and perspectives from that upbringing that are influencing them in rejecting you. So we do a mixture of individual and couples therapy in that case, to really start with broadening and offering education around gender and sexuality. As well, we work with men who are single, who cross-dress, who want to find a partner, or who are working through other co-occurring disorders like drug addiction, alcoholism, workaholism, depression, anxiety, avoidance and numbing behaviors, porn addiction, other problematic behaviors that are a result of untreated shame, guilt, fear, and anxiety. Because when you can't be yourself, when you feel rejected by society, when you feel ostracized by your family, when you feel like you can't really be your full self, other addictions develop. So we would love to talk with you about your sexuality, your sexual orientation, as well as your gender expression, because all of these are different aspects of who you are. And when we have a safe place to talk about them, our therapist, myself, and my team, we truly believe that you become a more integrated person and you can reach your dreams and really connect with your power within you, versus kind of having to play small or having to pretend you're someone you're not. So at Wisdom Within Counseling, we would love to support you if you're a man who cross-dresses in being your authentic self, talking with your loved ones about this, or maybe it's just having a safe place on video or in person to dress up with our therapists so that you can be yourself in one little place in life and in a place that's confidential, so you don't have to worry about that rejection from others. So if you'd like to work with us, we'd love to support you in talking about your sexual orientation, your gender expression, and sexuality. We're a sex-positive practice. I'm a certified sex therapy informed professional. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist in multiple states. I'm a Gottman Level 2 trained specialist. We offer individual and couples counseling to support you and be an affirming space for cross-dressing and gender expression. And we give you a safe place to talk about sex and intimacy too. You can book with us right over on our website at wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com. I'm Katie Ziskin. I'm the owner of Wisdom Within Counseling, and my team and I would love to be an affirming safe space for anyone who's part of the LGBTQIA+ community.